Okay. Good evening, everybody. Bobby Piton here. It's never a dull moment, right? All this unbelievable stuff is taking place in the world all around us. So, I just want to say a couple of quick hellos here. And let's see, we got Jules and Duncan Hines and Lee and Jim and Stud Puffin, Jeffrey. Farmhouse Mittens is back. Don't forget about the pink piglet. I don't know if that's a reference to what is that? What is that? Pink Piglet. Hold on a second. Winnie the Pooh. Pink Piglet. I don't know if you know this, but there's this corrupt leader in China that banned Winnie the Pooh because somebody made a cartoon of Xi the Pooh. It was Xi the Pooh. Anyways, they had him walking around like he was Winnie the Pooh. And so he banned the cartoon in all of China, right? This is how small that little eagle is of his, right? Not any different than Boner, who went limp and is speaking on behalf of the deep state now. So anyways, that's the deal, folks. We live in interesting times, to say the least. And we don't have any real leadership that's taken up the mantle, I guess, right? The baby's doing well, thank you. And I just want to point out that, if anybody hasn't watched the AMC clip from today, he does look like Winnie the Pooh, Jeff. I completely agree. He definitely does. And he pretty much acts like him too, right? He acts like him. And I'm a little shocked that the Chinese people don't rise up against tyranny. But this is why they're trying to come over here and have take away our guns. Because they realize that they're not going to be able to do anything with the American people being armed. So that's the deal, folks. And so, Winnie the Pooh, unbelievable. So maybe this guy Biden is like Tigger, right? I don't know. I think the cartoon was Benedict Barry used to walk around like Tigger, and Winnie the Pooh was walking with him. Doesn't seem too far off, right? Because Benedict Barry was, in fact, the Manchurian Candidate. And you guys should look into this for yourself. But little Benedict Barry, his parents were both spooks. They were both spies. I think they both worked for the CIA. And you can look into this for yourself. It's not reported very widely. But, this woman supposedly from the Midwest, I think Kansas, speaking Russian, and then meets Barry's father in Africa or Indonesia. I think it was Africa, maybe. But maybe I forgot where they met on assignment. But he was speaking Russian, and then they somehow meet, and then have Barry in another country. Folks, that birth certificate was probably faked. Let's face it. When the person that actually signed the birth certificate for Benedict Barry ends up dying, come on, in a plane crash in Hawaii, that doesn't raise any alarms. So something's way off, with all that stuff. But nobody really talks about it anymore because the truth has been silenced in this country and worldwide. So hopefully when all this stuff gets resolved, truth will finally come back to being exposed in real time, and all of these criminals, will be dealt with in real time. Because right now they don't get dealt with in real time. They seem to get away with it for a long time, and we need to change that as a society if we want to stay in God's good graces. Yep. Well, with regards to Mockingbird, I do think that at some point, we, the people of the United States, and we, the people of planet Earth, like all human beings, we should expose every single criminal that took money from our government to spread propaganda against human beings the world over. Benedict Barry, look into it for yourself. Smith. The Smith-Mundt Act, MUNDT. He expanded it back, I think, in 2012, which allowed for propaganda on U.S. soil. So this piece of garbage set up the environment for propaganda on U.S. soil, which has been undermining the United States for quite some time. Anyways, look into it for yourselves. You don't have to take my word for it. So you're not going to hear this in a traditional religious institution because they're going to fret about losing their tax-deferred status. So the religious institutions, they care more about their tax-deferred status and they keep their mouth shut, which is why I say don't give them any money. Go and give money to causes that you believe in directly. Go make a difference in people's life directly. Go tithe your time, but stop cutting. What do they say? What did Jesus say? To Caesar, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Don't give any money to Rome. Okay, I'm Roman Catholic, right? And that's a pretty funny thing for me to say, right? Because I'm Catholic, and I'm tired of the Medici family, who I think they had 2 popes, maybe more. They probably changed the name of these people. It was a lot easier back then. Who have controlled the Vatican for hundreds of years. They supposedly say they disappeared and died off 33 years before this country was founded. And then, they died off as the most powerful family on planet Earth. Yeah, I believe that. Just like I believe Joe Biden is president. So, I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself, folks. I believe the Medici family disappeared just like I believe Joe Biden is president. And so, whatever. If you really believe the Medici family just disappeared after being the most powerful, wealthy family the earth has ever seen, I think the San Francisco Bridge is for sale, right? Golden Gate. So maybe you could buy it too. I think it's for sale for like $1 million if you have enough money to paint it. Right? Isn't that what one of the scams looks like? Anyways, let's go on to Joshua 7. Feeling particularly festive today. So, boy, Joshua 7, right? This is pretty brutal. This is an extension of what we heard yesterday. And so, Joshua 7, the family, I'm going to read part of this, but we kind of talked about this yesterday. I like the God of the Old Testament, right? I think this is still Old Testament, Joshua 7. I got to double check. I don't know the difference between the two. When we read these, I sometimes think the first part of the readings in this whole series are Old Testament, and then we kind of touch on New Testament and so forth. And so I'm not sure what you mean, Maria, with regards to piss and vinegar. But anyways, what are you talking about? Boner? Boner went limp for the deep state. So they're asking them to step up and do something else instead. So I'm not sure if that's what you mean. But that guy's a boner, to say the least. He lives his last name. Anyways. And so that guy is he is bad news. Okay. Joshua 7. Then the clans of Judah came forward, and the clan of Zerah was singled out. Then the families of Zerah were singled out. Every member of Zimri, and then the family of Zimri was singled out. Every member of Zimri's family was brought forward by the person, and Achan was singled out. Then Joshua said, "My son, give glory to God. Give glory to the Lord, God of Israel, by telling the truth. Make your confession. Don't hide from me." Right? Now think about this, folks. This is what it's like. We hear about this. People do things for money all the time in this world. All the time. They can't get enough money. And I got to tell you, I don't know. Maybe I've been in this world, on this earth, right, in this physical form. Maybe I've been here as a spirit before. I don't know. That's God can answer that for me, I guess. But with regards to being here 45 years, witnessing a lot of people die, right, over my lifetime. In terms of when I say they died, I didn't watch them get killed. But just seeing people die, I'm coming from a big family. I'm the last of 10. My dad had 39 children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren when he died. And I've seen a lot of death over my lifetime from a very young age, being the last of 10 children. So I've seen cousins die and whatever, older second cousins, and you hear about accidents, all this crazy stuff, right? And I've kind of witnessed this all up close and personal as a child. And growing up in a very, very religious family, right? My parents were extremely religious. In particular, my mom was, I don't know what to tell you. Like she, to her credit, she didn't send a lot of money to the Pope or to Rome. God bless her. She did send a lot of money to various churches across the United States. So I think there was a church out of Indiana she would send money to. And my mom was a very modest woman, but she used to make money sewing on the side, and she would do things to make extra money. And she did these things to make this money, literally to give it away. So it's pretty interesting, right? Because she made enough money to cover her expenses in life and for her family. And then she would go above and beyond and try to make money to give it to, various religious institutions that she believed were trying to do the right thing. And so, how she would choose, like how she would donate her money out. It's pretty funny, folks. She would give her money out, right? My mom had a 6th grade education. That's it. My mom finished 6th grade, right? She grew up in World War II in Poland, and so did my dad. And that's when they finished. They started working right away. And so what ended up happening is when she would give this money, she would look into which churches or which organizations, I guess you can say monasteries or religious institutions, not the churches per se, but like where they were educating people, where they would pray the most. So the deal is she would choose to donate money to the institutions that would donate would pray the most on behalf of problems in the world. So she was a huge believer in the power of prayer. And as a result of that power of prayer, she would turn around and donate money to those institutions that also believed in the power of prayer. So it's pretty interesting. She says, you know what? I'd rather donate my money from working to whoever. Hold on a second. I'd rather donate my money to people who are praying, okay, than a bunch of people that are, trying to be so holier than thou and going out there and saying they're going to do all these great things with the money, right? It's pretty funny because she was always skeptical. If somebody always needed some money for something, right, she didn't know what the hell they need the money for. But she trusted people that were praying, that wanted the money to sit and pray, not just by themselves, but to pray in groups. So she would try to find these organizations where people would pray together. It kind of reminds me of the monks, right? The monks in Asia. I think it's in Tibet. You have like thousands of monks that pray together or something else. And so, anyways, no joke. But so when I sit there and I think about, this story, and I think about how they saw a beautiful robe from Babylon, 200 silver coins, a bar of gold weighing more than a pound. And, they went and hid it and buried the silver buried deeper than the rest. God wasn't too happy with this, right? So they, going back to the story of seeing all these people die from, witnessing all these people leaving this earth at a young age, and them, and in the Bible, them losing sight of the fact that, we're not here very long. So, you may get some comfort or think that you're better off by owning all this stuff, owning silver, owning gold, owning a fine robe. But if you do the wrong thing, who cares? You're still worthless in the eyes of God. Okay. So first of all, it's not my place to judge. God's going to judge you for what you did. We do have our own morality, or I guess you can say we have a lack of morality. Like I think we all know what we should be doing and what, what this country used to look like. But I got to tell you, today, reading about what the hell is going on with this whole thing with this company called AMC, I just saw that after hours, they're going to try to list and issue 25 million more shares of stock, another $1 billion. But they didn't say they're going to list it in 2013. But here's this company with 600 locations that could be possibly weaponized against the United States. The company was worth, $500 million a year ago. And now they're worth $25 billion. The stock was as high as almost $70 today. $70. So right now it closed at 51, and then after hours it's down almost $4. So it's down $1.6 billion, and it's extremely disturbing, and that this is happening. Now, keep in mind, I tried to reach out to some folks within the intelligence community that I got to speak with back in December with some of my voter stuff, trying to get the word out. But, I'm thinking about like this whole story right here with regards to morality, doing the right thing, not being focused on the material world. And, it's tough. It's tough. When our institutions like the SEC, they're outgunned. They got a lot of evil people trying to undermine the financial system, undermine Americans. All this type of stuff. Then you have people like Boner, who's limp, and he's fallen on hard times. Boner has fallen on hard times, and he's got to shoot his mouth off about this bogus event that took place in January. Look it up for yourselves, folks. I looked it up. I did a lot of research back in January about it. What a joke. I haven't really posted about it because I'm not interested in a knock on my door. But that whole thing is a big scam. You can figure that out for yourself. But you should look into it. I would look into the addresses of the person that was supposedly killed and where they're from in California, and you could see for yourself that they may not even exist. There might actually be a bunch of phantom voters with that same damn name, as well as a bunch of different iterations of that name. Just saying. You should look into it for yourself. But, I see this stuff. I see these corrupt politicians in Illinois. I see these horrible things, how they shut down all the businesses. Then I got government agencies that are corrupt. Federal government's corrupt. And here we are, and we're talking on YouTube, which, we all know what we all probably think about this parent company. And so, boy, what a crazy time. And so, I don't know what to tell you. But here's what I will say with regards to Joshua 7. I know it's a long-winded answer, but with regards to Joshua 7, God doesn't react lightly to this. God basically, decides to take them all out and have the community stone them all to death, right? If you look at it, it's pretty brutal, right? Not only are they all stoned to death, there's a pile of stones over Acon, which remains to this day, and it's called the Valley of Trouble. So the Lord was no longer angry. And I have to tell you, regardless of when this timing is coming, right? None of us really know, but I am looking forward. I am looking forward to the Lord being angry and taking out all these scumbags on planet Earth. I don't know when that day's coming, but I sure am very hopeful. And maybe, just maybe, the Lord will work through human beings on Earth, and the Lord will tell them exactly what to do when the time is right, to take out the papers and the trash. Right? Remember that song? Take out the papers and the trash. Well, I think that maybe the Lord's going to tell people the right people at the right moment in time to take out the papers in the trash, and the world will be a much better place when that occurs. And so that's the deal. Let's go to Joshua 8. So then the Lord said to Joshua, "Do not be afraid or discouraged. Take all your fighting men and attack AI," which is interesting, right? AI, artificial intelligence. Think about what's being used against us and weaponized. You are not welcome in Arizona no more. What is this? What's going on? Am I not welcome in Arizona anymore? I don't know what's going on. Folks, is this true? Is Trap onto something? Am I no longer welcome in Arizona? It's an interesting story. I don't know why I wouldn't be welcome in Arizona anymore. Is Trap Vision, are you a trap? I'm not sure exactly why. I guess maybe we're going to have to get rid of you, Trap, because I think that the people of Arizona probably would be okay with me coming back to expose your handlers, right? Because maybe you're just working for one of the handlers or something. You know? You are. Who's not welcome? Oh, Trap, I'm going to miss you, Trap. I miss you already. Just saying. Unbelievable. Trap, I'm a little surprised you don't have a life and that you don't just go somewhere else. You know? Maybe you need to go to China, right? There's a scene. I'm going to say this scene. This is pretty funny. If anybody has seen the movie, okay, there's a movie called City Slickers. Remember, with Billy Crystal? And the guy ends up coming home, right? I think he was married to this woman. He was married to this woman, and he was the manager of a grocery store. I forgot the guy's name, but it was Billy Crystal's friend. And there's a funny line, from that movie. If people were hate, I'd be China, right? I would play the video, but I'm worried that they're going to say I'm violating copyright. But anyways, in that movie, if people were hate, I'd be China. You know, he's just kind of like symbolizing how much hate he had. Like if he was a whole nation, how much hate this guy would have in the movie. But it's a really funny scene with, I guess he didn't do such a funny thing. He cheated on his wife because he didn't have sex in like 12 years. And he slept with the woman at the counter or something, like, one of the cashiers. But anyways, it is a pretty damn funny. Oh, man, I got to knock out somebody else here, too. Why are you? What? Come on, Hugh. Come on, Joe. Come on. Because, it's not necessary. You don't need to be here. Come on, get rid of Hugh. Hugh is no longer with us. Oh, I think there's a way. I figured it out about how I need to have some folks, be moderators here. So I got to tell you, Maria, you'll probably I'll name you a moderator, Jules, and a couple other people. We need to get some more moderators out here. But I do kind of enjoy it. So maybe if I have you guys as moderators every once in a while, I'll jump in there and hit my hammer. Folks, I'm not kidding around. I still have the hammer right here. So I keep the hammer right by my desk. And so anyways, I just have fun with it. I just figured I just leave it out. And so, I think it's kind of fun to have it here just because it's funny. But anyways, going back to this whole concept of artificial intelligence, here we are in Joshua 8. Do not be afraid or discouraged. Take your fighting men and attack AI. I mean, is this a sign or what? Is this a sign of something? For I have given you the king of AI, his people, his town, and his land. You will destroy them as you destroyed Jericho as his king. Now, folks, it just turns out that AI, artificial intelligence, is what's been completely disrupting and hurting the lives of everybody in America. And not just America, but worldwide. It's, we've had a tremendous amount of this artificial intelligence where people are trying to use technology to do the thinking for them. They're trying to use technology to silence people. It's kind of funny. I'm not using technology to make the decision on who to hammer. We're making a mental decision. We're all deciding that person doesn't belong here. But we don't have an algorithm do it. We just use our good old-fashioned common sense. That is not artificial intelligence. That's just our own common sense. However, there's artificial intelligence that is being created to knock out those people, indiscriminately. So we have to know the difference of when that happens. Oh boy, who do we need to knock out now, boss? What's going on? Anyways, so when I kind of read this, I think about the fact that this artificial intelligence that is doing a tremendous amount of damage to people around the world, all these companies, all these individuals, and so forth, it's a very serious problem. And so, so Joshua and all the fighting men sent out to attack AI, and they sent 30,000 of his best warriors. Now, keep in mind, folks, 30,000 of our best warriors. Is that what digital soldiers are? Is this Flynn's army of digital soldiers? How many digital soldiers are there right now in the United States? How many people are taking up arms against artificial intelligence? How many of them are being silenced right now with regards to Twitter and Facebook and everything else? That's a damn good question. I'm really curious to know if we did have 30,000 digital soldiers out there who are really, kind of spreading the fight against this artificial intelligence and these corporations that are doing this to try to hijack all of humanity. And so it's super interesting that this would be in Joshua 8 right now, because if you've noticed today, President Trump came out today and said he thinks that China owes the world $10 trillion. Okay? 10 trillion. So 10,000, actually 10 million millions. That's how much President Trump thinks China owes the world. I don't know if he was suing on behalf of the United States that the U.S. is owed 10 trillion. I think it was the entire planet, right? All of planet Earth was owed $10 trillion. Now keep in mind, folks, about 270 million Americans have a net worth of about $13 trillion. So that gives you, an idea how much $10 trillion is. That if 270 million Americans are worth 13 trillion, and Trump thinks that China owes the world 10 trillion, that gives you an idea. Folks, I think, and I wrote about this a little over a year ago, I think that before this is over, China should be broken up to what it was at prior to the Qin dynasty. The Qin dynasty was formed through bribery, deception, cheating, lying, stealing, and that's what they did. They basically bribed and created a country of a bunch of scumbags. Okay, they created a country and a power structure based on scumbaggedness. Okay, and my attitude is if China ends up when China finally does get it proved that they tried to steal this nation and steal this election in the United States with the help of very corrupt people in the United States. $10 trillion is about not 30,000 a person. $10 trillion would be, about $30,000 a person. That sounds about right. 10 million times 100,000. Yeah, it's about $33,000 a person. What it comes out to. What is this? So that's what's going on, folks. But I think if we broke up China back to what it was prior to the Qin dynasty, I think the world would be a much better place when this happens. And so I'm excited to see that occur when the truth is exposed. China is not worth $64 trillion. First of all, China is a bag of air. It's a piece. It's the biggest liar ever. They're not worth 64 trillion. They're just a bunch of liars. And so I don't believe that at all. I've done a lot of research on China. They're not worth that. They're a paper dragon. It's the Great Wall of Debt. You know, China is loaded down with debt. If you look at what I wrote back in 2000, I wrote this back in 2000 and hold on a second. Yeah, 2019. I wrote a bunch of stuff in 2019 that China was going to implode. Okay? So 2019, that the amount of debt that China took on was basically 4 times the amount of debt the U.S. did the previous 10 years. And that it was going to be like an atomic bomb going off. It was going to be like the equivalent of 50 times the size of the financial crisis that took place 2008 and back in 99, 2000, that whole bubble. I basically said that this was going to impact. It was going to be like Enron. I think I said it's going to be like Enron times 50. Okay, and guess what? It was. This whole crisis that occurred was at least Enron times 50 worldwide. And I wrote about it back in 2019. I explained why, because China is a house of cards. It's a paper dragon. And, I can't help but think, I don't know if anybody's ever watched the Game of Thrones, but the Game of Thrones, with the dragon is unleashed, right? Because stupid people unleashed the dragon. These corrupt families went in, and China was locked up. It was caged by planet Earth for like 300-400 years. It was taken down a few notches because of their evil tendencies of the leadership. And then they turned around. The average person in China was making like $250 a year back in 1973, 74. $250 a year. That's it. They were what you would say piss poor. Okay? The country was piss poor. And then all of a sudden, corrupt families, the Bush family as the key operators, they probably bought off the Supreme Court back then, folks. They pushed through for Roe v. Wade. Then all of a sudden they convinced Americans and the world to slaughter innocent, free-loving peoples. So they took abortion and they figured, what's the best way to destroy a free nation? Have that nation destroy its future generations. Convince them to slaughter the innocent, the most innocent among them. And that's what they did. 60 million abortions later in the United States. We have a population that's at least 200 million less. Okay, 200 million fewer Americans on planet Earth because of these scumbags. World War I resulted in 100 million deaths. I'm sorry, World War II. 100 million people died in World War II. That means that as a result of that, there's about 800 million fewer people of European descent in the world today because of what took place in Europe. Okay, World War II. A lot of other countries didn't have the devastation of what occurred in Europe. So then these same scumbags ran Europe into the ground. They came over to the United States and they convinced Americans to slaughter their babies, as well as all these other nations around the world, slaughter their babies. And then they turned around and they went to destroy their communities by outsourcing to all these different countries, China, all these other poor countries that had no moral compass. They had no Judeo-Christian values. They just treated human beings like slaves. And this is where they went. And unfortunately, I kept hearing the same thing, right? Back in the 90s and 2000s, working for firms and managing money, I heard the same damn argument for everybody. I would just sit there by myself and make this argument against them that, you know what? You have no right. This is what I used to hear all the time. So, hey, Dan, if you're listening, this is out to you, man. And he would say, you have no right to tell me that my shirt, my dress shirt that I buy for $30 should be $50 instead. I'm going to buy my dress shirt from China. This is what he used to say to me or whatever. This is back 20 years ago. He'd be like, I have a right to buy my dress shirt from China. I don't care if it's slave labor. It doesn't matter to me, right? And I said, well, you're going to reap what you sow, buddy. So as the whole world almost collapsed, I did call him up. I did call his son. His son works with him. You know what I said? I know, I'm not kidding around, folks. 20 years later, when this happened, I called his son. He wasn't around. His son picked up the phone. He works with him, right, in the financial industry. Okay? I called him up and I said, hey, tell your dad, was the shirt worth it? That's what I said. Was the shirt worth it? Was your $30 shirt worth it? See if he remembers why I said that to him. So, this is one of the problems of having a semi-photographic memory, folks. I remember these conversations from decades ago like they just happened yesterday. I remember where I was when I had this conversation. I remember having this damn conversation with him. And I remember him being so smug and arrogant about it that just pissed me off. And anyways, but keep in mind, when I called him, I waited for the right time to call him. I called him right when the market was blowing up. Everything was falling apart all around the world. That's when I called him. That's when I called him. I called him when he was feeling a lot of pain and a lot of grief from his clients because he was short-sighted about his damn $30 shirt. Okay? And there's a bunch of economists like this right now that go around this country. They try to sit there and they preach this free trade horse shit, right? With people that enslave human beings. Folks, it can't be called free trade if a prerequisite of the free trade is slave labor. It should be called slave trade. Call it what it is. At least have the damn decency to call it slave trade. You know what? We're in the slave trade business. We will use slave labor to come into the United States. Let's just call it what it is. We're a global corporation. We're going to use slave labor, damn it. We're going to make a lot of money. So the CEOs are going to go from making 100 times the average American in the 80s. Folks, I have data on all this stuff, right? This is what I do for a living. I look at all these crazy relationships. The average CEO in this country used to make 100 times what the average worker makes, right? 100 times. Well, let's do the math now. If the average American worker is making $60,000, we'll just round it up. It's about 57. But let's just say it's 60,000. So now all of a sudden, 60,000 goes into a million. How many times? It goes into a million about 16 times, 17 times. So $10 million is 170 times. So a CEO making $10 million is 170 times, 166 times the average American worker. Well, I got news for you, folks. There's people that make $1 billion, $2 billion. No joke. They make $2 billion. I just told you 10 million. Okay. I just told you a $10 million number. It's 160 times. So now you take that and you multiply 166 times 10. Now you're at 1,600 times. Now you multiply that again and it's 16,000 times. So one of these CEOs, one of these companies, one of these scumbags that's fleecing the American public, when they make 16,000 times, not 100 times like they used to in the 80s before China was opened up, they make 16,000 times the average American worker. And then you're going to sit there and you wonder why I get pissed off? Because I see these numbers and they say, oh, Bobby, you're just mad because you don't want to make that kind of money or you don't know how to make the money as well as they do. Folks, I got news for you. I know exactly how to make that kind of money. If I didn't have a moral compass, I could tell you right away how to make that kind of money. If you have no morality, you can make as much money as you want in this world. It's not complicated. You can make a lot of money if you have no moral compass. And what I'm telling you is these scumbags have no moral compass. They turn around and they figure out how to screw as many people as possible, and their attitude's always the same. They didn't know any better, so they get what they deserve. This is the rallying cry. This is how they justify it. Does it sound familiar, folks? This is the kind of horse shit that we hear all the time. The American people deserve it. And you know what? The American people don't deserve it. The American people are being misled on so many different fronts. We have horrific leadership that they're just idiots. They find the stupidest people to run for Congress in this country is what it seems like. I haven't seen a lot of really intelligent people in Congress. Maybe there's a couple, like Rand Paul, I think is up there. I think he's pretty intelligent. He seems like a down-to-earth guy. I don't know for sure. I have never met him, but, it's like, Rand Paul. I think about, what's his name? Devin Nunes, right? I'm trying to find these people that, are like, they seem like they're genuine, right? They really care. And they're far and few between. We just don't have that many. And I'm sitting there like, what the hell did we do that we have put in some of the shittiest people on planet Earth? Like, it's like, it was, instead of looking for the best, we were seeking out the worst. I'm not sure how the hell that happened. Jim Jordan is definitely on the list. I agree with you. Cotton, I've heard weird stuff about cotton. So, first of all, I don't know much about cotton, but I've heard that cotton might be a problem. DeSantis I think he'll be president of the United States one day. So, Mason, I don't know if cotton is good. I got to look into cotton more. I thought cotton was good, but I keep hearing all this bad stuff about cotton. So, I don't know what to believe on cotton anymore. But I've heard bad stuff about cotton. And so, anyways, Rand Paul, yeah. So, I don't know. I sit there, I'm thinking of creating, I'm trying to think about ways. One second here. I'm trying to think of ways to come up with fair and objective ways to analyze these people. That's what I'm trying to do. Because I don't know what. Change my thinking on topic. I used to think there's too much as class warfare. Yeah, I hear this argument, just so you know, keep trying. I've heard this argument so many times from people that don't understand economics. They like to tell me, Bobby, you think we should raise taxes, on these corporations, and you're such a Bolshevik. This is what they tell me. And I say, first of all, I make my living by being a capitalist. I literally employ capital for people. I put money to work across the economy. If that's not the definition of capitalism, I don't know what the hell is. I move capital around and I figure out where it makes most sense to put the money. I think that makes me a capitalist. But what I say is, if you look at this country's history, okay, you have a situation on our hands where 70 years ago, 80 years ago, like the 70-year moving average, okay, about 40% of the money that was brought in by the government was brought in from individual tax receipts. 40%. And about 40% was from corporate taxes. So keep in mind, folks, corporate taxes, okay, are, corporations are viewed as human beings in this country. The Supreme Court ruled on it. So a corporation would have to pay taxes like a human being. It's like a superhuman, right? A corporation, it never dies. If you have a corporation that's really well run, it never ever dies, okay? It just kind of keeps going. Human beings die. And so the taxes used to be 40% corporate, 40% individual taxes. Well, that number, I started sounding the alarm about 10 years ago. Corporate taxes, personal income taxes went up from 40% to 45% of the federal budget. Uncle Downer, I'll give you a call. I did get your message. I'll give you a call tomorrow. So thank you. I'll check the message. You said you emailed me, and I have someone checking email, so I apologize if somehow we didn't see it, but I'll double check. So anyways, going back to this whole corporation thing, corporations used to pay 40%, individuals paid 40%. Well, now you fast forward to today, and individuals pay 45%, corporations pay like 10%. So corporations have figured out how to pay 25%, 30% of what the tax bill that Americans pay, right? Think about how screwed up that is. I'll give you an idea. Now, keep in mind, they changed the damn numbers. If you look at the economic report to the president, corporations used to make $400 or $500 billion a year in 2000. They upped that number to $700 billion, inflation adjusted. So let's just give them their $700 billion number. I think it's horseshit because I remember it being about $400 billion, but now they're saying it's $700 billion. Okay, come on, Muhammad. What are you doing here? Okay. Muhammad's gone. Oh. Okay. So what ended up happening, a second. So what ended up happening is, since the year 2000, okay, corporations have had their profits more than triple since China entered the World Trade Organization. More than triple. So you have a situation where they're earning at least $2 trillion a year, more than $2 trillion. $2 trillion a year. And Americans haven't seen their wages, their profits triple. Now to give you a good idea of profits, I want you to think about this. If you look at a human being, right, a family unit, your family, and if you were to break even as a corporation, so if you viewed your family as a corporation, and I know we're off on a tangent here, folks, but we're gonna go, we're talking about this AI, like in Joshua. This is quite a tangent, right? On Joshua 8, we're talking about AI, and now we're talking about how the world works with AI and how these scummy companies are trying to take over planet Earth and so forth. And so, anyways. But, let's go to this whole concept of you as a corporation, your family. So if your family was a corporation, if your profit margin was zero, that means whatever you made, you covered your expenses of life. You broke even. You make 50 grand a year, you spend 50 grand, you have no profit. You don't have anything left. You have a zero profit margin, which is a tough way to live. You can't save any money. You can't invest in R&D. You don't put money aside for future growth, all this type of stuff, right? This is the deal, okay? If you have no profit margin as a family, then you're breaking even, right? So corporate America had about a 4% profit margin 20 years ago. So that means for every $1 trillion that they did in revenue, 1 trillion, okay, they made 40 billion, probably a little more than that. It used to be about 5%. So they made $500 billion, $10 trillion, okay? 500 billion in profit on 10 trillion. That's a 5% margin. So to give you an idea, if you made $60,000 a year, 5% would be $3,000. If you can set aside $3,000, you had a 5% profit margin. That's the way to kind of look at it. Your margin, your savings rate in this country after you cover your expenses, okay, is your profit margin. That's a good way to think about it. You say, Bobby, what the hell is my profit margin? Your profit margin to cover your cost of life is your savings rate. So if your savings rate is 5%, you have a 5% profit margin. If your savings rate is 10%, you have a 10% profit margin. Now, keep in mind, your savings rate, your 5%, 10%, 15%, whatever it is, that gives you an indication of what your value is going to be over time if you invest that money. So the higher your savings rate, the more money that you'll be able to save through time and invest because you throw off more money to invest. Okay, so why am I telling you all this? Because corporate America had like a 4 to 5% profit margin. I think it was like 4%. Well, now this thing is like 12%. So their profit margin shot up. It went from 4 to 12. Guess what happened to the American profit margin? The average American worker. It went to shit. The profit margin probably went from 4 or 5% to 0. So when you sit there and you hear the American the American worker doesn't have enough money to live, right? Their profit margin collapsed. Some people's, it went negative. Their margin went negative, okay? So they don't make enough money. To cover their living expenses, okay? And so, anyways, I don't know if you guys see this. I see 140 people. Sometimes I hear, weird stuff. But when people don't make enough money to cover their living expenses, they go to a negative margin. That's the deal. They go to a negative margin. So, from my perspective, when this kind of thing occurs, you ask yourself, well, how do we change this? How do we turn this around, Bobby? I've been giving that a lot of thought. Like, how do we turn this around? And I think the only way you can turn it around, you got to do a lot of work. That's the deal. It's not going to come easy, right? It's like that song by Coldplay. Nobody said it was easy. Like, we got to do a lot of work, and we got a lot of work ahead of us, and we have to, it's not that they don't hear. Okay, Dave, let me tell you something, okay? And we're going to go to Luke 16. So I'm going to make this comment before Luke 16, okay? So here's the deal, Dave. 50 years ago, I know we got to go back in time. It's like that song, right? By Huey Lewis. We're gonna go back in time. Remember that movie? Anyways, what the hell was it? The time, Marty McFly, right? We're gonna go back in time by Huey Lewis. That song. What the hell was it called? Back to the Future. So we're gonna go back to the past, and so we're gonna go back to the past. And 50 years ago, the minimum wage in this country was about $1.60, right? 1 hour, you work 1 hour, $1.60, $1.70 or something. You made $1.70 in 50 years ago. So you only needed to work 2 hours to buy a barrel of oil. 2 hours, that's it. You have your own barrel of oil. Now keep in mind, 1 barrel of oil is the equivalent of 1,700 kilowatts of energy, right? 1,700. So if you think about it, energy, like in a raw form like this with oil, is kind of like having a bunch of people work for you, right? Because oil, that's what it does. You imagine instead of having somebody driving a little tut-tut, right, dragging you around the streets of Tibet or something, you have a car, and that's what oil does. And so oil it has been a phenomenal equalizer to wealth, right? This is why they're attacking oil now. These green beans and all these scumbags trying to go after oil, it's about taking away power from people, okay? So now it's actually a little more than $26 an hour. Inflation, that number would be closer to oil is about $70 a barrel. And so, minimum wage, federal minimum wage is $8 an hour. So, it would be the equivalent of about 8 times that, so $7.58. So you're talking about $60 an hour, okay? $60 an hour is what minimum wage would be if you adjusted for inflation. Now, actually, not 60, about $30 to $35 an hour. So someone said 26, Jeffrey, you're close. It would be $26. $26, not a bad estimate. It'd be probably about 30 to 35. But you guys want to hear something funny? No, not 60. Minimum wage should be about 20. It would be about $30 to $35 an hour based on oil prices of today's prices if it maintained the same relationship as 50 years ago. And keep in mind, folks, that's assuming no productivity gains, right? This is just on an inflation-adjusted basis. Minimum wage in this country should be about $25 to $30 an hour. Now, here's what I would say about the inflation, and I hear this all the time. Bobby, you can't do that. If you put minimum wage to $25, $30 an hour, you'd wreck the economy. And my attitude is this. Now, you don't understand. You don't understand. You think I don't understand. I'm going to tell you, you don't understand. I feel like, what's that movie called? I think it was the TV show, All in the Family. There was, Archie Bunker and stuff. When they would argue, Meathead and everything else. But anyways, right now in this government, Our country right now, the federal government, is gone so insane that they spend over $22 per hour every hour that every American works. There's about 130 million hours being worked. 130 million Americans work 2,000 hours a year. And the government is spending $22 per hour per worker. $22. So when I hear this argument, Bobby, you can't do that, the economy would fall. I'd be like, no, you can. Cut the damn government in half. Cut the size of the government. Wages will go up automatically. That's who's been stealing all of these wage increases. You want to look at who's been stealing our wage increases as a society. Look at wage increases versus the size of the government. 100 years ago, $1 out of every $25, $1 out of every 25 went to the federal government that you earned. If you earned $100, you gave the government $4. That's it. That you gave them $4. You could take out $4 out of your pocket for every 100. You gave them $40 per $1,000 you made. Now the government is taking at least for every $1,000 instead of $40, they're taking $220. Think about that. At least $220 from you. Check your damn pay stub if you don't believe me. They're probably taking more than $220 from most of you. Okay, they're taking a lot more than $220 every 1,000 that you make. And my point is, even if we cut it in half, it'd still be 3 times as big as it was 100 years ago. Think about that. That's my opening bid. My opening bid is U.S. Senate. I want to cut the government. It sounds funny to say it. Bobby Piton for U.S. Senate. What are you going to do, Bobby? Cutting the government in half. What the hell are you talking about? Are you off your rocker? How the hell are you going to cut the government in half? We're going to have honest elections first. So we're going to audit all of the races in 2020. Bobby, you can't do that. You can't audit the damn races. They're going to come after you. The only way we can expose all this fraud is to have honest elections. That's the deal. We have to have honest elections to expose the fraud, because these sons of bitches are never going to show us how much they're stealing. So you need to have honest elections. You expose the fraud, and when you expose the fraud, you chop the government. And you know what? As far as I'm concerned, I got to tell you, don't kid yourself. You know what we're going to do? A debt jubilee, baby. No, I have no problem wiping out the debt of all these scumbags that cheated. Not the American people. The people that put the money, the people that saved, didn't cheat. They put money in their 401k. I'm not talking about those folks. I'm not talking, people that put aside a couple $1 million, even $5-10 million. People that put aside $5 million into their 401k, they bought a bunch of bonds. I'm not talking about wiping out those folks. I'm talking about the people that are worth hundreds of, 500, 2 billion, 5 billion. I'm talking about those people that ripped us off. Those people are going to get the debt jubilee. Those are the ones I'm like, no, you guys cheated. You scammed this entire freaking system. You know what? If it's kind of like that line from the movie Casino. If you didn't know it was happening, then if you weren't in on it, then you were so stupid that you didn't do anything to stop it. Either way, you're getting cut down. That's it. You're getting cut down to earth. So, anyways, makes me very popular among the uber elites. Anyway, we'll see what the hell happens. Okay, so let's go to Luke 16. There was a certain rich man who had a manager handling his affairs. That's pretty funny. What do I do for a living? I deal with rich people and handle their affairs. So one day a report came to that manager was wasting his employer's money. I don't like this. I don't like the way this sounds. So the employer called him in and said, what's this I hear? Get your report in order because you're going to be fired. The manager thought to himself, now what? My boss has fired me. I don't have the strength to dig ditches, and I'm too proud to beg. I know how to ensure I'll have plenty of friends who will give me a home when I'm fired. So he invited each person who owed money to his employer to come in and discuss the situation. He asked him, "How much do you owe him?" "I owe him 800 gallons of olive oil." So he said, "Take the bill and change it to 400. "How much do you owe him?" "I owe him 1,000 bushels of wheat." "Take it and cut it down to 800 bushels. The rich man had to admire the dishonest rascal for being so shrewd. And it is true that the children of this world are more shrewd in dealing with the world around them than the children of the light. Think about that. The children of this world are more shrewd than dealing with the children of the light. Here's the lesson. Use your worldly resources to benefit others and make friends. Then, when your possessions are gone, they will welcome you to an eternal home. If you are faithful in little things, you will be faithful in large ones. But if you are dishonest in little things, you won't be honest with greater responsibilities. And if you are untrustworthy about worldly wealth, who will trust you with the true riches of heaven? And if you are not faithful with other people's things, why should you be trusted with things of your own? No one can serve two masters, for you will hate one and love the other. You will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. Now, keep in mind, folks, when you read this, these scumbags in China, the Communist Party, they say, the sun only rises once, right? The sun can only rise on one empire or one nation. So China wants to replace the United States. So this satanic, evil empire that they're trying to build, they are a bunch of scumbags, and they are trying to take over, planet Earth, and they're trying to do so by destroying the United States. Okay, and my response to that is, these people worship money. Their God is money. They worship power. They don't worship equity and justice and fairness. They don't seek to do God's will. And so this is why, this is one of the reasons why we have to take these guys out. The evil communist regime. I'm not talking about the Chinese people. The evil communist regime has to go, because there is no place for both. You can't have a planet where people worship money and are enslaving the people within their own borders and then trying to enslave the rest of the world, okay? Or, you want to have the U.S. system, which is trying to promote freedom and justice for all. That's what liberty is, right? Liberty is just another word for freedom. We want liberty. Raul, come on, buddy. I'm not a priest, okay? I'm not a priest. I'm just somebody, people haven't been ruled ever. No, anyways, I'm not sure who's coming on. We're going to have to keep an eye on Raul. Let's see what the idea, let's see what happens with little Raul. Now, I'm not a pastor. That's pretty funny. I'd be a funny pastor, though, wouldn't I? I guess I could be a pastor. I can't be a priest, because if I was a priest, I'd have some explaining to do having 5 children. So the Catholic Church wouldn't like it. They don't want me cutting in on their action. The Catholic Church wants the money for themselves. They don't like the priests to have kids, because if the priests had kids, those kids would want that money, right? They would want that estate. The Catholic Church says, no. You're married to God, buddy. You're married to God, because we can't have you have a wife. Your wife's going to want the cash. If you die, we're going to lose the money that we thought we should get. And so that's just not going to happen. So anyways, I do get a kick out of that, but that's the deal, folks. You got to look at the way some of these systems are structured. It's very funny. It's extremely funny the way they're set up. They're set up about maintaining and keeping power. Okay, that's what's going on. Okay. You like to appear righteous in public, but God knows your hearts. what the world honors is detestable in the sight of God. Until John the Baptist, the laws of Moses and the messages of the prophets were your guides. But now the good news of the kingdom of God is preached, and everyone is eager to get in. But that doesn't mean that the law has lost its force. It is easier for heaven and earth to disappear than for the smallest point of God's law to be overturned. I love that saying, by the way, that the smallest point, it's harder. It's easier for the earth and the heavens to disappear than overturn the laws of God, right? The laws of God are the laws of the universe, right? That's the deal. This is why I love math. I think God speaks to us through mathematics. I do believe that mathematics is the language of the universe, and so you can't dispute. You can't dispute it. So I'm not sure if it's a lame translation, buddy. But I'm saying is, I do think that the smallest point, 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. Now, the lunatic left would say that that's a racist statement. That God is a racist. 1 plus 1 is not equal to 2. How dare you say 1 plus 1 is equal to 2? We follow no such laws of math in California. We're going to try to spread this idiocracy across the whole globe. We're going to say that no, 1 plus 1 is whatever you want it to be in your mind. You could think it's 3, and your definition of 1 plus 1 is 3, and somebody else's is 2.5, and somebody else's is 7, and that's just the way it is. That's these lunatics, okay? These people are insane. This is the kind of horse shit that they're trying to do to us. And so what I'm saying is the laws are the laws. Math is not racist. Math is math. 1 plus 1 will always be 2, just like a biological male will always be a male. A biological female will always be a female. It's an inconvenient truth for these lunatics. So anyways, I think that whole thing is about trying to cover their tracks for all the stealing of voters in the past, that they cheated so much in the voter rolls. They're trying to fabricate all these different types of insane things to cover their damn tracks. That's what's going on. And so, for example, a man who divorces his wife and marries someone else commits adultery. And anyone who marries a woman divorced from her husband commits adultery, right? And once again, folks, it's a function of what you do with it in terms of if you have to, in the Catholic Church, the way it works is you do have to get, the marriage annulled before you do it. Otherwise, it is cheating. 1 plus 1 is equal to 11. That's pretty funny. I guess some people just thought the two go together. Anyways, biological male has been canceled. That's funny. Okay, wise words will win you a good meal. That's pretty good. I got to tell this one to my wife. Oh, man, people are going to think I'm a sexist. I said my wife likes to cook. Actually, my wife is a much better cook than me, but I don't mind cooking either. But all I can tell you is, she's a much better cook than I will ever be, and maybe she just had more practice at it than I did. But I do say that, people are going to get upset. I said wise words will win you a good meal. And I guess I would say it doesn't matter if it's the husband cooking or the wife cooking or just a parent cooking. But, hopefully this is true. I do like the way this sounds. But treacherous people will have an appetite for violence. Now, folks, treacherous people, this is the scumbags and all these terrorist organizations that are funded by the lunatic left. They do have an appetite for violence. They're trying to turn around and get us to do bad things, and strike out violently so that they can try to step in and take over the country. They're trying to figure out ways to get the United Nations involved. It is gray. It is gray, by the way. You're right. I didn't wear gray this whole week, by the way. I was trying not to wear gray, so somebody just noticed I'm wearing a gray shirt. I gotta. Maybe I just have to have a different shirt. I don't need a stinking stylist. You're right, Onward. I don't. So, anyways, these treacherous people definitely are trying to bring that out in us as Americans. And I do think we need to make sure that we don't succumb to that, and we have to do the right thing, and we're going to win this battle. By the way, Sarah, just so you know, in societies worldwide where they prosper and they have an overabundance of resources, when they're left alone and they don't have the lunatic politicians, lunatic left, and other crazy stuff occurring, guess what ends up happening, right? What ends up happening when a society is successful and prosperous, men and women fall into their traditional roles that they want. And those traditional roles, okay, tend to be what we usually associate with. Women like to spend more time with their children than men. That's not a bad thing. That's not, women are the ones that carry the baby. This isn't shocking. It shouldn't be shocking to anybody. The baby literally was carried inside the woman. It was carried inside the woman. So if you can tell me that a guy is going to be more attached and more bonded with that baby than the mother, I tell you, I think you're a little crazy. I need a better background. I got to lose the track lighting. Susan, I agree with you. The track lighting has been bugging me, and I will have to change it. I'm working on this right now. But anyways, I do. Scandinavia is exactly is one of those wealthy nations where people kind of follow their roles that they just naturally kind of gravitate toward. But what happens is the really confused souls among us, that think that they're a female even though they have male biological parts, and women that think they should be men even though they have female biological parts. Those fringe groups kind of try to screw everything up, right? They try to screw everything up and try to shove everything down everybody's throat because nobody speaks up against it. And what I'm saying is, enough is enough. We all have to start speaking up against this lunacy and just say, you know what? You can try to do that horse shit on your own time, but we don't buy it. We're going to set up the rules of our society the way we want to set it up. And if you don't like it, go to China. Let's see if China will help you get that, get to that promised land that you're seeking. You want that communism, go embrace it. Get your butt over to China. Hell, we'll even do a Give, Send, Go or a GoFundMe. We'll get you over there. One-way ticket. Get the hell out of here. Just get them out of here. These scumbags that do this crap, send them over to China. You know what China's going to do? They're going to send them into a damn concentration camp with the Uyghurs, or the Ungars, the Muslims. They're sending them off, millions of them. They're going to re-educate them on traditional roles in China. You say, you know what? There you go. You got what you wanted. You wanted communism? You got it. Get the hell out of here. Go to communist China. Let's see what they do to you. Anyways, those who control their tongue will have a long life. Opening your mouth can ruin everything. Man, this does not sit well here, folks. I can't seem to control my tongue. I keep talking. I thought I was only going to go for an hour. I'm at an hour and 13 minutes right now. So I need to shut up and I need to finish this up. The Uyghurs. That's right. Sorry, you got it. The Uyghurs. Okay. So with that, folks, that's a good spot to end. We're gonna do St. Michael's prayer. Okay. Do St. Michael's prayer real quick. And we're going to say, St. Michael, defend us in battle, be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the evil Communist Party. Oh, yeah, a.k.a. the devil. May God rebuke them in the CCP, and we humbly pray, and do thou, O Prince of thy heavenly host, by the power of God, thrust into hell Satan, the CCP, every single corrupt politician in the United States that was sold out to the CCP, every executive that sold out to the CCP, and every university professor and school teacher and school administrator across America that is following the communist agenda, and all other evil spirits who wander through the world for the ruin of souls. I had to do my modification, folks. Amen. So in the name of Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. And with that, I just want to say, may God bless you. May God bless your family and friends. May God continue to bless the greatest nation in the history of the world. And may peace be with you. And if for some reason, if you don't have peace, just hate on some communists. Not just hate on them. Make sure you do stuff to expose these scumbags. Watch your back. Watch what I talked about with regards to AMC. Please, everybody out there, you want to have peace? For the love of God, get involved. Check out the malls. Check out the stores. Look for abnormal behavior. Find out if there's any kind of trucks. I'm not talking about the semi trailers. I'm talking about the ones from the really big cargo containers that come off of the boats. You please look into that. You need to look into that. See if any of these containers are showing up in your neighborhood and so forth, because I do think that we are at risk of being attacked by a foreign power. They're trying to control our ports into this country, and I do think that we have to be diligent. I don't know who to trust in our government. I've been reaching out to people that I do know in the intelligence apparatus, sending them these informations. We really, really need to make sure that we expose this stuff as best as we can, and do our part and kind of sound the alarm. And please stay diligent, stay focused, and that will help bring peace. And so that's all we can do. We got to pray a lot, and we got to pay attention to what the hell's going on. And folks, I'm in the middle of building my own intelligence apparatus that's owned by the American people. So it's kind of like a check on all this insanity through data, and I'm trying to do my part. And hopefully, you guys should see some results. Hopefully in the next few days, I'll be posting the first stuff. It's our first week. We've raised over $38,000, actually plus 15, so about 50. What is that? We're up to $53,000. So I have payroll for Edward Solomon for at least 6 months and at least 2 other people. And so I'm spending that money. None of that money's going to me. I'm going to explain exactly how much I spent each week. And here's what we delivered, folks. This is the delivery. This is what we got done. Here's the reports. Oh man, I owe somebody some data on Georgia. Damn it. I apologize if you're watching. I have to get the data up tomorrow with the last name analysis for Georgia, and I'll do the other states. I'll get that posted tomorrow. So my apologies if I said I would get it today. I just kind of ran out of time, but I'll make sure it gets up there. But we're going to be posting these reports as to what it is. This information is going to be owned by the American people. That's the way it is. It's not going to be owned by any damn political party. We're going to post it for the American people to make better decisions, because we're all Americans first. We're not Republicans first. We're not Democrats first. We are Americans first, and I want to make sure that this information goes out to all Americans, period. So with that, have a wonderful evening, and God bless. Thank you for coming up. I love you all. So enjoy your evening.